Breaking news in the SportsCenter's promise, courtesy of the NBA. Sources telling Adrian Wojnarowski that the Nets are bringing back Kyrie as a part-time player for games outside of New York. Now, if you remember, since training camp, he's refused to satisfy New York City vaccine mandates in order to play home games, leading the Nets to sideline him for all games so far this season. But with injuries and players entering COVID protocols, repeatedly leaving the roster shorthanded as of late, Brooklyn decided to change course. Now, if he were to start playing games for the Nets, here's what the upcoming schedule looks like. They play their next 3 at home, so no Kyrie there for sure. Then they go to Portland, which is where he could make his season debut. Then they got the Lakers on Christmas and then Clippers 2 days later. For more information and reaction, here's Mike Greenberg and tonight's NBA Countdown crew.
All right, Michael, thank you very much. To be exact, they have 27 road games left, so we'll see how many of those he is able to play. Big Perk is in for Stephen A tonight. Steve's a little bit under the weather. It is not COVID-related. Michael Wilbon, Jalen Rose. That is the overwhelming news. The Nets bringing Kyrie Irving back as a part-time player. It is Woj who has that story and has all the information, so let's waste no time and get right to him. Woj, take us into this decision and what it means for the Nets and I guess for the entire NBA.
Yeah, Greeny, Kyrie Irving, since the preseason when the Nets sidelined him because they did not want him as a part-time player, did not want him just for road games, has wanted to play this role, to play road games, not get vaccinated. And finally the Nets in really over the last week to 10 days, as they've lost players in COVID. They've got 7 players in protocols, and the load on Kevin Durant, 37 minutes a game, the most he's played in the league since his MVP season in 2013-14. Listen, the Nets see a window here, a tight window to win a championship, and to them, the circumstances have changed. They've got a roster and key players in Durant and James Harden who welcome back Kyrie Irving, even in this role, and their head coach, Steve Nash, Sean Marks, their GM, and their owner, Joe Tsai, their thinking evolved on this and ultimately saw a player who can help carry the load for them in the regular season. He can practice at home and play road games. They'll get to the postseason when they do and figure out how that might work. But right now in Brooklyn, they want to win a championship, and the load on their roster with, again, players out with COVID, the minutes that Kevin Durant has had to play and James Harden, who's out in COVID now, they decided, really to start having that conversation with Kyrie Irving, and now he's going to have to test for 5 successive days negative, then he can rejoin the team, and then it's a ramp-up, Greeny, to when he's ready to return on the road. Remember, he can't play against the Knicks at Madison Square Garden, and he can't play in Toronto against the Raptors. He can play everywhere else in the NBA.
Exactly. So that's how we actually get from 27 road games to 24 that under the current policies he would be eligible to play. All right, Woj, stay close by. You'll be right off of the top of Countdown tonight, and we'll get in depth into a lot of this. But let me bring that to the group here, and let's just try and make some semblance of. I mean, Jalen Rose, you and I have known each other 15 years. I thought we'd seen everything. And now here we go. Kyrie Irving is going to come back and play road games. What?
It's a win-win for the Nets. Here's why. Because you mentioned they're being shorthanded, right? So maybe if you get Kyrie back playing road games, maybe he considers getting vaccinated, realizing that they have a legitimate chance to win the championship this year. And I know a lot of people who are cheerleading people that are non-vaccinated are going to look at this as a heroic act. It's not. Okay, he was actually still getting paid his salary from the NBA, still getting paid his salary from his shoe company. I just saw him the other day drop an ad for his shoe with compression pants, and I said he's coming back.
Yes,
and so I'm not surprised that he's going to be in uniform. Let's see if he now ultimately gets vaccinated and plays home games as well.
Let me ask a Big Perk, can this work? I mean, can you have a player who only plays basically half the games in the modern NBA? Can that work?
Yes, it can when you're dealing with a player like Kyrie Irving. Here's the thing. I'd rather have a part-time Kyrie Irving than a no-time Kyrie Irving. He's just that valuable to the game. And here's the thing. He was sitting back, and you know this, Jalen, as a former player, that when you're sitting back and you're on the outside looking in and you're watching your team have success and you're watching them ball out without you and you're sitting on the sideline, and we all know at heart, Kyrie Irving is a hooper. He wants to be out there. And to take it to another level, when you see your brother Kevin Durant and what he's doing, I think that inspired Kyrie Irving and the Brooklyn Nets even more.
All right, so when I need perspective, I turn to Michael Wilbon for
Becoming
it.
a cynic now? All right, let me be candid. I listen to these two all the time. They know because I'll text in a minute, and Jalen knows he's going to put up with me for 20 years. And I'm listening very closely to what they're saying. And still, and I believe he's a great talent. Mm-hmm. The question is, does this ignore human nature? I mean, there's nothing like the dynamic of a locker room. They know better than I do, and I know better than anybody who hasn't played because I've been going to locker rooms for 40 years. And there are feelings in locker rooms. There are sometimes resentments. There are clear-headed star players who can look at you and say, are you kidding me? We're gonna do this? Remember, the Nets management said, we don't want him doing every other game. He can't practice. We don't know how that's going to go. And so while I'm leaning toward what these guys are saying about the talent and adding it to the court, part of me saying, man, this isn't how sports works.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.